Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and today's guest is someone who embodies resilience, grit, and the power of gratitude. At just 9 years old, Laura Bratton faced the life-changing reality that she would lose her sight, a journey that would test and ultimately strengthen her spirit over the next decade. Rather than letting her circumstances define her, Laura transformed her challenges into a lifelong practice of courage. She went on to earn a degree in psychology from Arizona State University and then became the first blind student to receive a Master of Divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary. Today, Laura shares her story and strategies through her book, Harnessing Courage, her keynote speaking, and through UBI Global, the organization she founded to help others face their obstacles with grit, grace, and resilience. Laura's story isn't about overcoming. It's about redefining what's possible when we choose to lead with grit and gratitude. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so glad to be able to talk with you and share your story. You've certainly been through so much and have a lot of messages to share with our listener. I'd love to start back at the beginning when you're 9 years old and you get this diagnosis that is certainly life-changing. I can't even imagine what you were thinking and feeling and what that was like. Bring us up to speed. Share a little bit about what that time was like for you.
So the gift of being a 9-year-old is that I vividly remember that doctor's appointment, but emotionally, I couldn't grasp the reality. So what I mean by that is I can still see in my mind's eye and sense the tension in the room, but I couldn't, as a 9-year-old, emotionally process. So it was between my second grade and third grade, the summer between those academic years. And I was at a pediatric ophthalmology appointment, in the summer when you're doing all your yearly checkup appointments. And I had read the letters, the big E and all the letters on the chart, and my eyes were dilated. And so everything was going just typical, normal. And after the doctor looked in each of my eyes, what I can just vividly remember is he rolled back in his chair, just rolled away from me. And he looked directly at my mom and very serious just said, okay, there's a major problem going on. I have to refer her to a retina specialist. We have to figure out what's going on. So my mom's immediate reaction was, okay, well, we're about to start a new school year. I'm a teacher. Obviously, she's getting ready to start a new year. We'll do it during fall break or Christmas break.
Yeah.
Sometime we'll schedule it out in the future. And again, I can just remember his voice and the tone. He just said, no, you don't understand. This is a major issue we have to address now. And you will leave my office and go directly to the specialist. You're not eating lunch. He will work you in this afternoon now.
Wow.
And so literally that's what we did. We got in the car, left one doctor's office, drove to the next office. So that's what I mean about the gift of a 9-year-old being that age is that I heard it. I was aware of it, but I couldn't process what that change meant and what it meant that the cells of my retina were deteriorating. And what the doctors told us is I would definitely lose my sight, but they had no idea at what rate.
Oh.
So I could be 10, I could be 20, I could be 50. They had no idea at what rate. So again, I heard all that. I still remember that appointment, but I just couldn't grasp what that meant. Because to me, I was a 9-year-old who could see well.
Yeah.
So that's how life was always going to be.
Yeah. I can only imagine. It makes me think about as we're aging, we've heard for a lot of years, health matters the most. You have to do these things to keep healthy. It's really going to matter when you're older. So it's inevitable that if you don't have all these healthy habits in place, it's going to catch up to you.
Yes.
But yet you can't really grasp it. You can't really wrap your head around it until you start, until you get into that age.
Until that age. Because your reality is just your reality. It's always going to be.
When do you think, do you have a vivid recollection of sort of when it became more of a reality?
Yes, 100%. So between the age, I was diagnosed at 9 and I lost a tiny bit of sight, but it wasn't anything significant until the end of middle school. So about 14. And that's when the reality hit me. So it was a very clear moment. I was sitting in geography class and the teacher, as we've always done all year, said, okay, copy down the notes on the board. So I pulled out my notebook, grabbed my pen, looked up at the board, and all I could see were these black, like shadowy marks. It almost looked like a black ink pen had exploded. It wasn't like defined letters. It was just these black kind of marks. And so I looked back down at my notebook and just kind of readjusted my notebook like that was going to make a difference. Looked back up at the board and still all I saw were those same just kind of awkward shape, like distorted shapes. So I leaned over to my neighbor because everyone around me was writing down the notes just like perfectly. So I just assumed, okay, maybe they're just writing down words we had been learning in geography class. They're not writing down the notes on the board yet. They're just writing down notes from memory. So I asked my neighbor, how are you copying down the notes on the board? There's nothing to write down yet. And her response was the moment that my life changed. She just leaned back over to me and casually was like, Laura, what do you mean? The print is absolutely normal. The notes are there like they've always been. That's when the reality of that 9-year-old doctor's visit hit me and became real.
Wow.
Because my vision was significantly changing. And so that's when it came real, both physically and emotionally.
Could you see the day before what you would consider normally, or just like, was there actually a big decline that day, or was it just that
there was a big decline that day. So it wasn't normal like 2020, but it was normal. Like as far as I was sitting, as long as I was sitting at the front of the class, and just could look out the door and kind of take my time and just kind of adjust my focus, I was fine. So it was a drastic change.
And at that age, boy, that's a tough age as it is to suddenly,
yes.
I can't even imagine. So you're 14 and all of a sudden life really changes. And I imagine so many day-to-day things had to change, had to be modified, some drastic. And I'm guessing some things even had to stop. You had to stop doing things.
Yes.
What do you remember? Like what stands out as something that you had to completely give up and that was really hard to come to terms with?
The hardest thing for me as a 14-year-old, again, that 14 teenage girl mind, the hardest thing I had to completely give up was dancing. So from the time I could walk several days a week, I had dance class. It wasn't just like, oh, this is a fun activity, I'll try. Dancing was what I did after school 2 or 3 days a week. That was my absolute love. So to totally give that up and stop, that was extremely hard. Because again, it's what you said, most things could be adapted and adjusted, but that I had to completely stop. And that, for me, again, as a teenage girl, that was incredibly traumatic.
And so I'm trying to put my head into the space of a 14-year-old who's going through this.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining that though you've come to a point where you're, really leading with perseverance and grit and courage and all of these things. As a 14-year-old, I'm thinking you're mad and you're hurt and you're scared and you're all the things.
Yes. All the things combined in one. And so my first reaction was all those emotions came out in denial. Oh, this isn't that bad. Oh, this is not really permanent. It's just going to be a little while. I'm just, just like I lost my sight, I'm just going to wake up and magically have 20/20. If I just pray hard enough, my sight will just magically come back. So it was that denial because I didn't want to accept or feel or acknowledge the reality. Then once that wore off, the denial wore off, it was, I can't. It was extreme overwhelm of the present and extreme overwhelm of the future.
I mean, I can imagine everything feeling so hard.
Yes.
But yet, there were only a handful of years before you headed off to, did you actually head off to college or did you take it from home?
Yes. You did. No, I actually did.
You went to college.
Yeah. So what got me to that point from that overwhelm, because still throughout high school, through those 4 years, I continued to lose still a significant amount of vision. So even from that day in middle school, I still lost a lot through high school. So what got me to that point of, okay, I can graduate from high school, I can go off to college, was as I'm having the perspective of, I can't, this is so overwhelming. It was the support around me that got me to that place of healing. And what I mean by that is it was those parents that said, okay, we don't know anything about blindness, but we'll do the research and figure out what we need to learn, how to both parent you and just you as obviously the person who is becoming blind. And they would just tell me as I was so overwhelmed, Laura, this is incredibly overwhelming. So we're going to take it day by day by day, moment by moment by moment. So setting that tone, that perspective of having them around me, taking it day by day. They still treated me, I have one older brother. They still treat us like equal children. It wasn't, oh my gosh, now you're the pity child. Now you're the one that's less than, or you're the one we have to coddle or feel sorry for. They didn't lower their expectations. They just made accommodations.
Wow.
And then my brother, being 5 years older, he still treated me as that annoying little sister. And in the moment, I'm like, don't you feel sorry for me? I wanted him to pity me and baby me. But looking back, him treating me as normal, us still fighting over the front seat, or you know what I mean? Like, who was going to do what chores, just the normal sibling stuff. That was teaching me, that subconscious teaching me, you can keep going.
Girl, you got lucky.
You think
you got lucky, right?
Yes, incredibly lucky. Yeah. I mean, and that's we'll definitely talk about this, but that is where the gratitude comes from, is because when I was overwhelmed and was mentally, was so depressed I couldn't function, so anxious, I was in constant just state of panic attack. It wasn't even a panic attack. That was just my constant state of living. That's what taught me, wait, but if I have people around me that are still treating me normal and making accommodations, maybe I too can have that perspective.
I have to ask this, and it's probably I always feel like this might be a weird question, but
there are no weird questions. I promise.
Well, it feels awkward asking it, but I feel like someone that had vision, especially for like 14 years,
Yes.
you can obviously remember what things look like.
Yes.
Do you think that helps with being blind today in that it gives you context? Whereas I know I shouldn't compare, but I'm trying to compare to somebody that wouldn't have vision ever. But if I said to you, we're at a four-way crosswalk or a four-way stop sign, you know what that looks like.
Yes.
So is that valid?
1,000% valid. Yes. And I think about that every day because the gift is just like you said, when you describe something to me, I know exactly where it is. And I'll give you a tangible example. This morning, my mom and I were going to a specific shop. And when she told me the shopping center it's in, I said, okay, I know all these shops are different, but is it where this used to be or that used to be? And she was like, oh, yeah, 30 years ago, those are, the CVS used to be. But again, I give those context clues to say, I've got that visual map, that visual memory of, like you were saying, this is what the crosswalk looks like, or this is what red,
colors,
burgundy red versus fire truck red. I know all that. So yes, that is an incredible gift that I have that knowledge. I have that perspective of what it used to look like.
And what about comparison to your mom, your family? So you know what they used to look like. Yes, they're aging, but you still can have a picture of what they looked like.
Right.
Now you've met people along the way and you don't have that picture.
Yes.
So how does that compare for you? What is that like?
So we all, if two perspectives. So one, my family is very, very good about comparing. Oh, she looks like, sort of like, obviously it's not exactly, but she looks like, so-and-so cousin or our old neighbor, so-and-so. So they'll just try to make a general comparison.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I do automatically, and this wasn't taught or I just started doing this, is I 100% focus on the energy of the person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even wonder, what does that person look like? I know that sounds weird to say, is coming from a sighted perspective, but I don't even think about that. I'm just so focused on their energy. Wow, they're really, really angry. Wow, they are too happy. Like they're too positive. I perceive their energy in such an intense way than person with sight. Does that make sense? Like I'm focused, I'm zeroed in on their energy where you're focused in on the visual and the energy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And it's actually helpful and insightful because I don't think I would have ever thought of that, right? I mean, but because I don't have that perception. Yeah, but it makes total sense that it's not even something you would think about. Yeah.
Most of the time, if I say to someone, oh my gosh, she seems like she's about to cry or she's about to burst into tears or, she's more looking down at the ground, like a lack of confidence than just straight ahead. Almost always the sighted person's like, oh my gosh, you're right. I'll say or I even said to my niece recently, who's a teenager, who's 15, oh my gosh, I just love your confidence. I love how you carry yourself. And my brother, her dad was like, oh my gosh, you're exactly right. Like her posture is changed in the past couple of years. It's a lot better than when she was 13. So it's oftentimes what I perceive of the energy is the physical appearance.
It's really neat because it just shows that you've gained things that you probably didn't expect to gain, and you're looking at things differently. So, let's build on that. Like, was there a time or a particular moment that stands out when you suddenly realized, wow, it hasn't taken everything away from me, or it's given me things I wouldn't have expected? Was there a particular moment?
Yes, absolutely. And that moment was in a a situation, a human interaction that taught me to live with that perspective. So after grad school, as I was in my training, my residency as a chaplain, I had a referral to go and see a patient. And so I went up to the nurse's station and I said, I've got a request for this person. And they said, oh yeah, they didn't put in that request, but we have put in the request. And they said, the patient is not responding to the doctors or to, us as nurses, to the social worker, to the psychiatrist, the psychologist. She won't open up. She won't talk to us. So as a last resort, we called the chaplains. I'm like, great. Here I am, like 23 years old as a resident. Like, what in the world am I going to do if doctors can't do anything, right? So my guide dog and I walk into the room and I introduce myself as the chaplain on the unit. And in an extremely loud, high-pitched voice that the whole entire hall could hear, she just screams, oh my God, you're blind. And I just obviously didn't react. And in my head, I was thinking, well, yeah. This is why I'm using a guide dog, like, yes, this morning when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see anything, Yes, I think I'm pretty sure I am. So my next thought was, okay, when people react that way, it's never positive, So I was already mentally prepared to leave. So I said, yes. And her next words and interactions completely changed my life. Her tone just dropped to almost a whisper. And she just said, okay, you are the only person in this hospital who will not physically judge my appearance as I'm laying here so sick and ill in the hospital. I'll let you in and I'll tell you everything.
Wow.
And I stood there at the side of her bed and she talked for about 20 minutes until she was so physically weak, she could not get the words out anymore. She was trying, but nothing was coming out. She was so weak. And just the only words that she could force out were, do you promise me you'll come back every day that I'm in the hospital? So I'll tell you more and more and more because I trust you, because you're not physically judging me.
Wow.
And so I said, yes, of course, I'll be back. And she was in the hospital for about 9 or 10 days. And so for every day for about 30 minutes is all she could handle as far as talking. I would go back and she would just talk until she was so weak, she couldn't get the words out. And throughout those 10 days, she would slowly open up to family members. She would open up to the doctors, the nurses, the social worker, the psychologist, a little bit more and more and more. And that first interaction and the course of those 10 days taught me, Laura, you don't like this. You wouldn't choose this. You wish your vision would magically come back tomorrow. And you have gifts, and exactly what you said a minute ago of everything has not been taken away from you.
Yeah.
And so lead with that perspective. So thank you for that question and thinking of that, because that specific moment was life-changing. What I gave to her was nothing in comparison to what the gift that she gave me, and that changed the course of my mindset, my perspective.
Well, two things come to mind for me is, one, you were 23 years old. And so that was so incredible that you even picked up on that at 23 with everything you had been going through.
Yes, true.
And the second thing is, you said, I lost my sight. Of course, I would wish it would come back. And it's not but.
Yes.
It's and.
Right.
And I've been teaching myself that lesson over these last handful of years, and I think it's something we have to continue to stress. There's room for two opposing feelings.
Yes.
Two opposing opinions, two opposing perspectives. both things can be true at the same time.
Yes. Yes. The but takes away the grief and the reality.
Yes.
If I had said, but, it would have taken away all the pain that I went through in that transition and continue to live with as a person without sight. The and is exactly what you said. It makes room to grieve and to move forward. That I can have the perspective of, yes, everything has not been taken away from me, and I still grieve what has been taken away.
Yeah.
So thank you for noticing that.
Yeah.
Because that was a powerful shift once I learned both can be true.
Absolutely. And so now, all these years later, so what, 21 years later or ish, what, 21 years? How old? After. I mean, could you ever have imagined yourself when you were 9 and you weren't even really fully understanding? I suppose you couldn't have imagined this point in time. How about when you were 20 to now?
No, because then it was still that perspective of more survival than being comfortable in my own skin. It was more, okay, let me just survive this day. Let me just have the belief in myself to get through the day, rather than I'm just comfortable in my own skin and I can relax and it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so that's the major difference.
So you titled your book Harnessing Courage.
Yes.
But when we talk about you not having that ability and living in that hyper stressful, just getting through the day by day for all those years, I guess what I'm trying to say is it took a while to find your own courage, I think, right? I'm hearing that as the story unfolds.
Absolutely.
So what advice do you give our listener who needs to tap into their courage, who's going through something difficult or something scary and doesn't even know they can be courageous?
So my first advice is what we touched on about the difference between but and. So what I mean by that is the first step for me in being courageous was having the strength to acknowledge this is really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
So again, making that transition from survival mode to being comfortable in my own skin, a lot of that came just from realizing it actually takes courage, and it's actually okay if I just admit this is really, really, really hard. And I don't mean that in a victim way, like it's hard, so just poor, pitiful me, or the world owes me, or giving up. But my advice would be someone going through any type of difficult change or experience, give yourself the space just to have the courage to acknowledge this is painful.
Yeah.
This is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Then once you have the courage to sit in that space of this is hard, that's where the and comes in. And I choose to do what I need to do this moment. Is that the one phone call that is so hard to make, or the one email that feels impossible to press that send button, or just choosing to trust yourself when you don't feel like you can. So my best advice for the courage, and this is 100% from my lived experience, is have the courage to sit in the pain, in the grief, and then also have the courage to take that one step forward. Not the whole future, just that one moment forward.
Well, and I think that's where the grit comes in, right, as a source of strength, because then having the grit to get through it, to take those steps.
Yes.
But again, I'll ask, what do you say to that person who doesn't yet feel like they have that strength, doesn't yet know how to do the hard thing?
So that's where I was for so many years. And that's where you depend on the support around you. Whether that support is family, whether it's friends, pets, nature, just the warmth of the sunshine, the just the sound of the birds, the just watching nature, whether it's music, journaling, reading, whatever is a source of strength for you as an individual, lean on that support to be your support when you don't feel like you have it. And know that that support is enough. And I say that from the perspective of, for me, for so long, I was in that place that I don't have the strength. And it took a very long time of that support around me, slowly teaching me, okay, maybe I can do one task today to move myself forward. So again, when we don't have the strength, that's not a weakness. That's just because of the magnitude of our life experience. So trust the greater energy that's supporting you, whatever that looks like. If that's, reading, nature, or sports, whatever hobby or source that is, depend on that being your strength and trusting that to be enough.
I think I love that. And I would add to that and say, not everybody is as lucky with a supportive family that will, surround you and pick you up when you can't pick yourself up.
1,000%.
But there's people out there. So I guess I'm saying this to the listener who doesn't feel it yet.
Yes.
There is a support system out there for you. And if you haven't found it yet, part of that is coming up for air and just saying, I need help, putting your hand in the air and saying, I'm not feeling strong enough and I need somebody to support me.
Yes.
And people will support you.
Yes.
So just know that's not a sign of weakness.
Right.
That sometimes we all need help.
That's courage. That's deep courage. I mean, that is incredibly courageous.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's go to your family for a minute. And you alluded to that's where the gratitude kind of fits in.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. So it's part of the equation. You talk about this in your book and this has been your lived experience.
Yes.
So for the person, again, going through something, it's scary, uncomfortable, new, and they're struggling to find anything to be grateful for. Talk to that person.
So let me share the moment or a significant moment that started me on the path of gratitude. I didn't wake up and say, I'm so grateful to be blind. I love this. This is fun. I recommend this for everybody.
You didn't?
No, not at all as a teenager. What happened was an interaction with a mentor. So as I'm incredibly depressed and anxious and losing a significant amount of sight, a mentor said to me in those high school days, Laura, I want you to start writing down 3 people, situations, events from the day that you're grateful for. So thankfully, I just kind of smiled and said, okay. I didn't say what was in my head, but I'm thinking, okay, you're not a good mentor. Like, you don't need to be other people's mentor, because that's very bad advice to tell someone who is anxious and depressed and just going through this major traumatic experience to be grateful. Like, that's just not wise. So in my stubbornness as a teenager, I said, okay, I'm going to teach her and I'm going to be her mentor. And I started to write down 3 things I was grateful for, only to prove there was nothing to be grateful for. What I realized, I thought she was saying, be grateful for the blindness. What she was saying is, become aware and be grateful for what helps you navigate through the difficulty. So be grateful for the parents who are still treating you as equal with accommodations. Be grateful for the guide dog that helps you navigate the world safely. So again, my answer to your question is no, I don't recommend anyone who's going through a difficult situation be grateful. Absolutely do not be grateful for that situation, for the change, for the loss. What I want you to be grateful for is to take the time of what allowed you to literally survive today? How did you get through today? That's what the gratitude is.
That makes sense. Totally makes sense. I'm curious if a sighted person could borrow your life, your experience for a day.
Yeah.
What do you think would shock them the most?
The grief, the constant grief of grieving how easy life was with sight, and how one particular activity would take 3 seconds, 5 minutes, and now the effort that it takes. So just the grief of, oh my gosh, life almost felt effortless with sight, and because of the effort required without sight. So just that intense emotional grief that never goes away, because it's not an acute situation. It's an ongoing reality.
So how do you work through that or not let that get the best of you?
So one more mentor situation. I had a lot of mentors.
That's good ones
that I listened to and didn't. I listened to years later. I didn't listen to them in the moment. So when I was at Arizona State, I was getting ready to start my freshman year. And so here I am, 18-year-old, thinking, okay, I've done this grief thing. I've checked that box. I can move on from that. And I was sitting in my disability coordinator's office. And I don't remember the conversation. I don't remember what prompted her to say this, but I just remember her words. She just very confidently and calmly said, Laura, I just want you to know that you think you have grieved and you're moving on, but I want you to understand you will grieve every moment for the rest of your life. And that's not a weakness. That doesn't mean you haven't accepted your blindness. That doesn't mean you're not comfortable in your own skin. It just is what it is, and it's part of your everyday experience. Obviously, my reaction was, no, I'm good. I got this all figured out. I've breathed. I'm good. That might apply to other people, but I'm good, right? Again, years later, I'm like, wow, that just like that interaction in the hospital, that was life-changing because she gave me permission.
Yes.
She gave me a permission to grieve and also choose to move forward.
Yeah.
So I tell that story to answer your question. You live with the grief by just accepting that is part of your reality. So it's not in a place of fighting it or trying to squash it down or minimize it or get rid of it. It's just in a place of, wow, I'm really sad. I can't do this task on my own anymore. I'm sad that I now need help with this, where when I had sight, I wouldn't need help. So acknowledging that sadness, but also choosing, but I'm grateful that the sight's there.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that the sighted help is there. So it's both. It's grieving and being grateful at the same time.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. Both can be true.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about when you were saying it. It's the and situation again.
Yes.
It's, I wish it wasn't so. I wish it never happened.
Yes.
I'm sad I can't see so-and-so.
Yes.
And it's given me so much. And thankfully I, am supported. And I can see how that works.
Right. It's both at the same time.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit as we wind down around the work that you're doing today and how you really are trying to help people.
So the work I'm doing today is a combination of professional speaking and then individual coaching. So both speaking to organizations on a group level, but also working with people on a one-on-one individual level. And specifically what that speaking and coaching is supporting people as they're navigating through their own change, using the resources of grit and gratitude to navigate through the change. And my my purpose, my passion, the reason I created the organization and the reason I focus on the speaking and the coaching is because I want to empower people to have these resources. I want to be that support that I had received. Mm-hmm. So to me, to just say, okay, I'm thankful I received that support. That's good for me. That's not what I want. I want to say that's good for me. And I want to give it to the world. I want to be that support to other people that I received.
I love that.
So my passion is to empower people to say, yes, this is really, really hard what you're going through. And let me support you. And let's together figure out a way to navigate forward, to move forward so that you're still using your gifts and you still know that you're worthy and that you matter and that you're enough. So the reason for the organization was 100% because of my lived experience and wanting to give that support that I received.
I love that. I love that purpose. I want to give you may have said it in what you just answered, but if there's one message that you can leave our listener with today, what would that be?
Know that in the change, in the loss, in the transition that you're going through, as overwhelming as it is, know that you are still enough.
Great message. Thank you for all that you're doing. You are such an inspiration, and I can imagine that the folks that you help walk through and navigate their own situations are just so much better off having you and your lived experience by their side. So thank you for sharing that with the world.
Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for your amazing insights. That was incredibly powerful.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Message in the Middle. I hope you found something in this conversation that reminded you that you're not alone and that midlife isn't about winding down. It's about waking up. You're not done. You're just becoming. If this episode speaks to you at all, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you're enjoying the show, I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave a review. It really helps other women find this community and this podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself.